ESPN, they have 4 doubleheaders. 3 of them we know about because the fourth one's in week 18 and the schedule's not set. The week 2, week 3, the game started at 7:15, 8:15, and then in week 14, they both start at 8:15. Why the staggered starts for those games?
Trying something new. I mean, last year was the first time we've had the side-by-sides on ESPN and ABC. We had the overlap. This year we shrunk the overlap a little bit. We'll try it one way in weeks 2 and 3 just to get everybody kind of used to it early in the season. When we get to week 14, everybody knows, Monday Night Football starts at 8:15 Eastern, turn on the TV, and, oh, right, we got 2 games. It's not that different than on a Sunday afternoon where you got 7 or 8 games going on at once. You can flip back and forth. I'm sure they'll do a lot of live look-ins. I imagine next year with our 3 side-by-side Monday nights, we'll try something different again. Maybe go back to like we used to do, 7 and 10 o'clock Eastern, play them back-to-back. You could have 3 hours of football with everybody watching 1 of 2 games. You could have 6 hours of football and spread it out. You could overlap them. Let's see who goes first, maybe a little east-west. We're still tinkering and working with ESPN and the research team trying to thread that needle, figure out the right way to do those.
Now, ESPN gets flexed this year. Week 14 would be a week where they can flex. Can one of those doubleheader games be flexed out this year?
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny. I didn't mind the staggers to start last year because I remember, if I'm not mistaken, it was timed perfectly where the second game started right when the first game went to halftime. I'm more curious about that the week 14 where they're both at 8:15. I was wondering what the logic was with that.
Yeah, look, I think the idea there is to have a 3-hour block where we're maximizing all the eyeballs. Maybe some of them are on ESPN, some of them are ABC. The 2 games are different in terms of geographical interest and fan interest. So you can watch one, you can watch both, you can flip back and forth. You kind of condense it and kind of maximize the total number of eyeballs over a shorter span of time, give everybody 2 full games in that 3-hour window. The fans will tell us. I mean, if they're good games, the fans will find them and they'll let us know whether they like the overlap better or side by side or consecutive one after the other. We'll try it all and we'll see. What you got to remember is, if we didn't have that second game on Monday night, that game would have been just one of the Sunday afternoon games.
Right.
It would have been
I like it.
15%. Yeah. I mean, why not give people a chance to sample a little bit more?
I'm a huge fan of the Monday doubleheader, and I don't care if it's staggered or 7 and 10. I love it.
I'm sure we'll try some new stuff next year too. Since you're taking credit for Black Friday, why don't you come up with a good idea for Monday night next year? We'll give it to you.
I'll think about that. Well, I'll tell you what I really want is a Friday night game. But every time I say that, I get all these tweets from people about high schools. Who cares about the high schools? I'm sorry, I'm a monster. Give me the NFL over the high schools, but that's separate. Break the laws, see what happens. I'm curious, when you guys are all scheduling the games late in the season, do you think in the back of your head, well, we can always flex this out, this can always be flexed out, or does that really not come into consideration?
Look, I think when flexible scheduling was only on Sunday nights and we didn't have the side-by-side doubleheaders on Monday, we didn't have the 9:30 a.m. London games, we didn't have, the Black Friday games, we didn't have so much pressure on the Sunday afternoon windows. I think when you had kind of one game on Sunday night and 13 games sitting there on Sunday afternoon, yeah, you could be a little bit riskier. Let's put this on Sunday night, knowing if we can't play it when we get there, there's 13 other games we could choose from. Now, I don't think that's our approach. I think if you look at this schedule, the Sunday nights, the Monday nights, the Thursday nights, we're all pretty strong down the stretch. They weren't placed there with an eye towards flex because, like we said, there's a limit. There's a limit to the number of times you can not have the Bills on CBS. There's a limit to the number of times a team can appear in prime time. So I don't think any longer we're looking at those flex weeks as, hey, this is a good time to get risky. I think it's the opposite. I think we were pretty conservative, and you can see pretty good games down the stretch on all the primetime packages. I thought I made a note of this. I don't see it. You had said earlier, is it the Chiefs-Bengals game is late in the season, if I'm not, it's very late. Like this, is it like week 16? Okay. 17. And I know, and Eagles-Chiefs, the Super Bowl rematch, I think is like week 11. So correct.
That's before the flex. Now, obviously, listen, you guys have a lot of people to keep happy. You've got Sunday at 4:25, which I try to tell people is still the bread and butter of the league. You've got Sunday night. You've got Monday night. Here comes Amazon. How important was it this year for you guys to give Amazon a good schedule after the rough schedule last year? Now, like you said, before the season, you don't know what's going to happen. But even before the season, we saw that Amazon schedule last year. Well, this year it looks pretty good. Was it a concerted effort? Like we've got to help them out after last year, Amazon Prime? You should check your notes. I'm not sure what you said a year ago, but I think most people said a year ago, man, that's a pretty good Amazon schedule. I think last year people were
surprised by the quality of the Amazon schedule, and clearly with an intent toward changing consumer behavior and helping mom and dad find what Amazon where you find it on their television, and you needed to do that with good games. There's no question that the success of the streaming partners is a strategic priority for the NFL. So yeah, you could see that the schedule's better. I'm not sure you're looking at that Amazon schedule and you're saying, wow, they got the top five of the top 10 or five of the top 20, whatever the magic number was. But I think what you look at is once ownership approved the rule last month about having multiple teams playing multiple times, you could put a few teams on twice. Heaven only knows if, Chicago and the Jets and Pittsburgh are going to be good for Amazon, but those are obviously big brands and have national fan bases and should kind of, break up the up and downness, if you will, the echogram of the Amazon viewership track from last season and kind of, flatten it out a little bit.
Stabilize it. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
After the Cowboys, so the Cowboys, America's team, they draw no matter what. After the Cowboys, if you were to say who's America's second team in terms of ratings and draw on TV? Who would you say that? Does it change year to year based on whether they're good? Like the Cowboys, it doesn't matter if they're good; they get ratings no matter what. Is there a second?
I mean, look, the fans aren't fools. They know on a year where Dallas was 6-10 that not quite as much of a reason to tune in down the stretch. But yeah, look, when the Cowboys are good, when the Bears are good, when the 49ers are good, the Steelers, the Patriots, the schedule makers look smart. That's a little bit out of our hands. So to answer your question right now, kind of in that upper tier with Dallas is Kansas City. They have best player in the league. Yeah. The guy's won a couple rings and continues to do amazing things. And that's what our fans want to watch. So Kansas City's kind of right up there with Dallas these days. And then just below them, not even that far, but kind of right on the precipice there. You think about Philly, you think about Buffalo, you think about San Fran, some of that sustained success for a couple of years. And then obviously Aaron Rodgers moved to the Jets, takes a team out of the number one media market that was a good football team last year with good skill position players and an excellent defense. And now you put a 4-time MVP, first ballot Hall of Famer there. I think everybody's going to want to watch them, certainly at the beginning of the season. If they get out to, 6-2, I think they're going to be there down the stretch. And that's why you see a lot of Jets games on national television as well.
Right. I got a question from one of my readers last week. I did this in my mailbag column. They asked, which team are we going to see on primetime too much? And I answered that question. I said, it's the same team that's on primetime way too much every year, and it's the Raiders. The Raiders are never good. They've had 2 winning seasons out of the last, I think it's 23 or 27. And here we are where 6 games is the max for primetime, and they get 5 primetime games. Why do we always get fed the Raiders when they're never good?
Well, not sure never good, but
two winning seasons out of 23 is never good.
You know what? They've got a national fan base. Maybe it's a little dormant, but when we talk about total number of primetime games, we all have to remember we've got so many more primetime games now. So maybe some of the numbers inch up a little bit, and a team you might have thought should have only been on twice was on 3 times, or a team that maybe only deserved 3 got on 4. These extra Mondays, these extra Amazons, they all come from somewhere. So to the extent that, this team or that team got 1 more or 1 less than somebody would have expected, none of us know anything. I think what we're trying to do is react to our fans. They tell us every single day what's important to them, which games they watch, which teams they follow on social media, which players they're interested in, who's on their fantasy team, who they're betting on, whose hats and jerseys they're buying. They tell us every day who they're interested in, and we're just trying to listen to them as best we can.
I think I may have written this too. Outside of the opener and maybe outside of Thanksgiving and Christmas, I think the highest rated game of the season will be Jets Cowboys because of the factor of what you said with Aaron Rodgers. Yep. Cowboys are the Cowboys, and then you have those TV markets. So I was a little surprised. I didn't think it was anything bad. I was just curious that you put it week 2. I thought maybe that would be saved for a little later in the season. What was the mindset there?
Yeah, kind of get it in, strike while the iron's hot. I mean, whatever happens in week 1, Aaron Rodgers is going to be a story in week 2. Can he keep it up? Can he rebound? Are the Jets in trouble? Are the Jets the best team in the league? having that one kind of early lets everybody continue to build not just to week one, but there's big games in week two and week four and week five. And then, like you mentioned earlier, you can't put all your best games in September. Some of them have to go in December. And to the extent that, nobody's really sure about the Jets, nobody's really sure about the Cowboys. I think if there's one thing maybe we can be sure of in this league, it's that Cincinnati and Kansas City are probably going to be playing for something down the stretch. So saving a game like that for week 17 as opposed to Jets Dallas or another game like that for later in the year, it's just trying to find that balance, which ones, the fans want to see early, which ones they want to see late, which ones we think are still going to have playoff implications. Obviously, the crystal ball is never as clear as we'd like, but CBS certainly liked the idea of getting that Jets-Cowboys game in early and holding on to Cincy KC for later.
I'm sure. Like I said, CBS, they're loaded this year. There's a little bit of a weird one, and it's hardcore NFL fans get into this. When you're putting the schedule together, as Scott Hansen had a great tweet about this too, does the Red Zone. Do you guys think about the 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock split? Now, this is where I'm weird because I like when it's like 9 games at 1, 3 games at 4, because then I feel like I can relax at 4. But a lot of NFL fans get pissed and they want like 5 games at 4 o'clock. Do you guys think about this 1 4 o'clock split when you're putting the schedules together?
You mentioned the 425 window. That window is where we get more eyeballs than any other. So you're getting 25, 26, 28 million people watching at 425. They're not watching because we've got 3 or 4 or 5 games and we're just kind of spreading them around the country with, games of geographical interest. They're watching because we've got a big game there. So to put a big game there and then to put a whole bunch of games around it means more fans can't watch that big game. So to the extent that with this league is built on mass up most of the games at 1 o'clock, you watch your home team generally at 1 o'clock, then you watch the big doubleheader game at 425. Are there weeks where there's 3, 4, 5 games at 4 o'clock? Yeah. We do have a lot of teams playing out west, and some of them have gotten really good. So when you think about the Seattles and the San Frans and the Chargers and the Broncos, all those Western games have to go somewhere, and they can't obviously go to 1 o'clock Eastern. So there are weeks with more games late, but generally speaking, mass up at 1 o'clock, everybody watch the local team, and then everybody watch the big game at 425 is how it's been done for decades.